Welcome viewers to today's episode on RogueSpirit Reviews, where I will be sharing my thoughts on Resident Evil Revelations. Sorry, I just had to do that. Don't forget to aim that sniper at the subscribe button and like this video and share with your friends and family, and subscribe for more gaming content. Be sure to check out and subscribe to my other channel named RogueSpirit Plays, where I post random video gameplay clips of me playing video games so I can show off my lame gaming skills and still wreck stuff up. That's what I do. I pick up the controller, wreck super bosses up, put the controller back down, and head home while being hungover at the same damn time. Link to the channel will be posted in the description of this video if you want to check it out. Okay, let's start this review. I have heard some great things and some bad things about Resident Evil Revelations 2, but I always wanted to experience this game for myself to see if it stands alongside some of the best Resident Evil games that we have all been blessed to play at some point or time in our lives. For Resident Evil Revelations 2, the developers back at Capcom envisioned this low-budget spin-off game to be a more classical style of return to form Resident Evil type of game in order to please all of the older fans. With a cheaper budget than usual, the team at Capcom thought it would be best to not only focus on the mainline Resident Evil games, which the goal in mind is to please to a newer casual audience fan base, but the spin-offs would focus on trying to please the older fans. Inspired by other video games like Telltale's The Walking Dead series, the developers added a chapter-based system, which would be released as individual episodes that would release each week until the final episode, which works great for a TV show, but a video game? Yeah, I'd rather play it all in one go, thanks. I don't have that much patience, especially since when I play a Resident Evil game, I want the full experience given to me right out of the oven. But regardless, I do think that maybe this was to please much of the newer gamers and would likely sell more copies. But didn't this game start off with the conception and idea to please the older Resi fans? Kind of indecisive if you ask me, but oh well. The game released in February 2015 with a lot of decent fan feedback and selling about over 3.8 million units worldwide, thus blowing its predecessor, the first game, which is titled Resident Evil Revelations, no duh, of course, out of the water. I wanted to know as little as possible before diving in, and I'm very excited to play Resident Evil any time of the year or day. So it's time to go into the story section here and see how old zombie executioner Claire Redfield has been holding up over the years since Resident Evil 2. The story starts off with Claire Redfield and Moira Burton, Barry's daughter from the first game, who have been recruited by Terra Save, a governmental human rights agency whose main duties and services are committed to aiding others through handing out supplies while being heavily armed in order to fight off any threats, and are also fighting and speaking against corrupt government organizations and corporations, even though there are some apparent loopholes here and there, but I have a gaming channel, not a conspiracy theories channel, so. During a party which is thrown for the new recruits, damn, and they didn't invite me? Oh well, maybe in the next game. Sorry about that. During a party which is thrown for the new recruits, during the party, Claire and Moira eventually get kidnapped by another group of corrupt mercenaries and are taken to an island named Sejem Island, where they find themselves trapped among the living nightmares that inhabit the island itself. You'll be playing as both Claire Redfield and Barry Burton, who will be assisted by their own helpful partners. In Claire's case, we have the very handy Moira, who can use her crowbar to take care of normal threats no problem without the use of a gun, and for the good old man Barry, he is accompanied by Natalia, who is good for pointing out invisible enemies and crawling through holes and chucking bricks. Good luck, Barry. Yeah, I'll miss you, man. Each episode in this game always ends on a cliffhanger to keep the player anticipated and interested for the next episode, but they will always show off what's gonna happen next, which ruins the suspense, especially if you play this game all in one go. The story is actually pretty interesting here though, and there are a lot of surprises which I will not spoil, as that will take the joy out of playing this game and experiencing the plot twist for yourself. I highly recommend playing this game with a friend, as it is a multiplayer game. But with that said, the gameplay mostly works like every other Resident Evil game, where you run around and collect resources, sneak by monsters, trying not to get spotted, and trying to reserve as much ammo as possible. But here's the thing, Revelations 2 is by no means a survival horror experience. Sure, there are some elements from the older games here, but mostly you'll be using your ammo to take care of most of the foes, and the game even gives you a lot of ammo and healing items when appropriate, encouraging a more action-heavy type of play experience. And because of this is a more contained linear experience. It doesn't really have that horror survival gameplay mechanics that the first 3 games in the series had, and you won't be exploring a mansion, backtracking to older areas, solving puzzles and dodging enemies, instead of wasting your ammo on them and reserving them for later tougher boss fights. Nope, not here. Instead, most of the level progression is linear, which is decent for the most part, but I wish the locations you get to explore in this game were more memorable and explorable. While on this topic, I have to mention that some of the details in the areas you do explore look a little bland and boring for my taste, even for a game released back in 2015. But mind you, this game did have a lower budget, but I think a little more effort could have worked wonders here. A new mechanic in this game, which I believe should return in the newer games, are the stealth takedowns. As Claire or Barry, if you approach an enemy while not detected, you'll be given the chance to perform a sneak kill, which saved me a lot of times from wasting resources or taking more damage. You will obtain a full arsenal of weapons eventually, like the shotgun or sniper rifle and assault rifles, magnum guns which hold magnum rounds, great for getting out of sticky or tight situations, especially during a difficult long boss battle. You will still combine items like combining alcohol with an empty bottle to make a firebomb and mix herbs together, classical Resident Evil style. But unlike the older games, I never had a problem with the item management and never really ran out of room to store more items that I have stumbled across while searching every nook and cranny within the explorable environments, but that lessened the dread for me as I always felt overly prepared for the next monster encounters. I kinda miss stressing about item managing and what to bring with me and what to leave behind. I think that added an element of horror in the older games, so that was a little bit missed. Another huge new mechanic in this game is the partner system. You can freely switch between characters on the fly with just the press of a button. It makes solving some of the harder puzzles such an enjoyable experience and even reminds me a lot of The Last of Us. Seeing 2 characters working together to survive the odds always feels like a welcome addition to the game, especially during battles when I'm up against the living dead. Moira can help Claire during battle by using her crowbar to attack enemies, and I have to say, I mostly just relied on Moira to take care of the more traditional zombies that can now run. Kinda reminds me of the Crimson Heads from the remake of the first game, but in Revelations 2, these zombies are pretty funny and their scare factor becomes a joke. Just run up and start swinging while dodging to easily dispose of them, and your partner can also stun enemies by roundhousing or punching them as hard as you can with Barry's fist or Claire's roundhouse kick, and then run up to kill them instantly while they are on the ground. And later on you can make these moves occur more often thanks to skill upgrades, and if you end up surrounded, just switch to Jill and pop them in the head to end their curse. Of course you can aim your gun at explosive red tanks to burn the undead alive, but besides that you have smoke bombs, and when you throw them it allows you to escape enemy detection or sneak behind and sneak kill them while the effects last. There's also the decoy bottle, which when thrown will grab the attention of a nearby enemy, and when the enemy approaches it, it will explode, which is a nice tactical strategic ability to use. And of course, my favorite, the fire bombs. These things are good for boss fights or if you become crowded and can't escape your demise. Later on in the game, once I upgraded my melee attack power, I just used Jill's knife instead of bullets, which worked faster for me when up against enemies in the late game area. Natalia, who was Barry's partner throughout the course of the adventure, I found a bit more useless compared to Moira, as she can just chuck a brick at an enemy which just stuns them for a bit. Well, when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'll be sure to store up on some bricks. Wow, so smart. But she still has her uses in combat, as she can see and spot out invisible insect type enemies, which was pretty neat but underutilized here, as they only take 2 bullets to kill and aren't that much of a challenge unless you're running straight and run into them by accident, resulting in a game over screen. But nice addition to spice up the enemy variety a bit. And that's the most disappointing part about Resident Evil Revelations 2. The enemy variety is surprisingly lacking here, and most of the enemies aren't even scary. Maybe just one scary enemy, but even they become a joke as you progress through the game and reach the game's climax. The episodes are pretty short here as well, and if not stuck or confused by a puzzle, I found myself clearing each episode fairly quickly, about maybe an hour or 50 minutes. Overall, I beat the game within 5 to 6 hours, which I know a lot of the other games can be beaten in the same exact amount of time, especially if doing a speed run of the game, but this game surprisingly felt way shorter than the others, and I usually take my time with Resident Evil games. One praise I do have to give Revelations to are in the boss fights, because they are pretty big and can be challenging if you do not have a strategy. And I love these moments, like a zombie wielding a chainsaw who chases you relentlessly, or a super tyrant who charges at you and has a long reach, so if he grabs you, he can toss you across the battle arena. Really had me on the ropes, especially when I ran out of ammo and had to rely on my knife to finish the boss fight. And though the story can be cheesy at times and hilarious as paying homage to the older games, it's still actually pretty decent here, and there are a lot of memorable moments throughout the adventure that reminded me a lot about Resident Evil 4, but comes nowhere close to being as perfect as that game. But those moments don't last long, and when replaying the game, you can finish these epic moments fairly quickly. One reason to replay the story is for the unlockable multiple endings as well, and that is appreciated. While on the topic of replayability, once you are finished the main story, and if you don't feel like second dipping, there are online and local raid modes which you can participate in. Unfortunately, I haven't tried raid mode as of yet, so I won't go into detail here, but I have heard a lot of people spending most of their playtime hours in the raid mode missions, so that's something to check out for sure. There are unlockables as well once you finish the main campaign, and additional costumes for each characters as well, and you can also view concept art gallery among other special features as well, which is pretty cool. Overall, this is a very fun game to play alongside with a friend, in my humble opinion. But besides that, I wish this game could have been a bit longer and less contained, but that's not my main issue with the game. The main issue is the lack of enemy variety and the bland environments and predictable pacing, which doesn't really change much or introduce new elements to the gameplay. And the game is not scary at all like Resident Evil 2 Remake, even though there are a lot of WTF moments, and this game does have a scary looking villain, but there are no moments like running into Lisa Trevor from Resident Evil 1 Remake here. You just run straight, a zombie pops up, and you're like, yo, and the zombie's like, yo, and you're like, boom, boom, KK, nice to meet ya, but I gotta go. Now, there are jump scares that got to me, but they weren't scary, just surprising is all. But I still enjoyed Resident Evil Revelations 2 for what it is, and if you have another friend to join you, then that will be a super fun wicked time. Amazing puzzles where you have to rely on both of the characters to solve the problem, with some amazing boss battles and plot twists which kept me invested. I can still recommend this game, but I would only recommend this one to the fans if they haven't played it yet or skipped out on it. Now, is it worth your time and investment? I do think the price tag is a little too steep, especially for an older game that lasts around 6 hours, so it's understandable if you skip out on this entry, especially since you can play the fantastic Resident Evil 2 Remake and amazing Resident Evil 4, 7, and 8, and even Resident Evil 3 Remake, which is very fun to play. Although it's missing some stages and story arcs from the original Resident Evil 3, there are still better alternatives in my humble opinion, if you need to scratch that Resident Evil itch. Otherwise, if you want to collect all of the Resident Evil games, then this should most definitely be added to your collection. I'm still glad I got to experience this game and talk about it on my channel, but I feel like that if I was never curious about this game and chose not to play it, I don't feel like I would have missed out too much, especially after experiencing Resident Evil 2 Remake, which scared the living daylights out of me and was an amazing fun time. That's all for today, folks. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and give it a like and thumbs up, and don't forget to share with your friends and family, and subscribe for more gaming content. Be sure to check out my other channel named RogueSpirit Plays, where I post random video gameplay clips of me playing video games. Take care everybody, have a great day. See you on the next episode of RogueSpirit Reviews.